Welcome to Holding Space. Michael Zen is a visual producer and creative photographer using his imaginative visionary energy to channel Zen and hold space for spiritual and innovative discussion. Each episode creates a supportive, accepting, and open environment that allows exploration and expertise to come together with engaging and entertaining convergence. With guest and community all helping the shape of the way, Michael is grateful to be together to hold space. Now here is your host of Holding Space, Michael Zen.
Hello, hello. Oh, look at that. I'm only halfway here. Let me fix that. Oh, there we go. Now I can hold space fully. Welcome to Holding Space. Yes, here's your host, Michael Zen. That's me. I love Todd's narration. He's promising you some engaging and entertaining convergence in a conversation. I love that. It's really cool. What's up, Kim? Good to see you, Kimby. So it is a Tuesday. That's when I hold space. I'm excited tonight for a great conversation with I guess you could say a regular here on Holding Space, if there's such a thing. Holding Space is a place where I intentionally host a conversation, host a moment, create a space where you guys can show up. I see Kim Princess out there, and share your energy and intention of being here and involved in an engaging and entertaining convergence, just like Todd said. I like to usually start the show with a little clearing the space. I do it with sage, but not the sage that you ignite. I do it with my trusty bowl here, sage. I clear the space sonically. Also with my breath, I do 3 breaths just to kind of get myself centered and hopefully get you guys centered as well. So please feel free to play along at home. I'm going to ring the bell, the bowl, and I'm going to breathe in through my nose, and it's going to look something like this. Breathing in, and then I'm going to hold it for a second, and then I'm going to release. That's my favorite part, releasing all the stuff that I don't need in me anymore, energetically, intentionally, physiologically, all of that stuff. CO2, I don't need that in me, so I release it. All right, so here we go. Let's do 3 breaths together. One nice long breath in. And then release. Again, a nice one in. Hold it for a second. Release. And the last one. It's getting pretty loud. Let that one out nice and slow. You could feel it. It's like getting high, but without any drugs. It's just life. It's just breathing and connecting to the breath. I love it. Anyway, here we are, Tuesday night. Again, I've got a regular here for another amazing conversation. I want to just read a little bit. I was kind of trying to gather my thoughts about the conversation. And tonight's conversation is about ancestral healing, ancestral energies. It's about what does that even mean, right? So I just want to open with this. We often think of healing as something that we're doing for ourselves, right here, right now. It starts here, it ends here. But what if the weight that you release when you're healing is not fully your own to begin with, right? What if in healing your own heart, you're sending ripples backwards through time, forwards through time, right? Anything that you heal and you change in the present isn't going to be a problem in the future. So you've sent the healing forward, and then the healing that you feel from anything that might be from the past that you carried with you ripples through to the past and heals the past. I've had my own experiences with that. I want to talk about that. Tonight, I'm joined by the luminous Suri Sawyer, a good friend and wise soul, to explore the art of ancestral healing. We're going to talk about the stories in our lives, the stories that live in our cells, the patterns that echo through our families, and how presence, true loving awareness, can transform pain into power. So take a breath, because whether you believe it or not, your ancestors are listening, and maybe, just maybe, they've been waiting for this conversation. So welcome to Holding Space. Suri, Sawyer, how you doing, my friend?
Michael Zane, it's so good to be here again. And I would consider myself a regular.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
even though you're not really regular, you're a regular on the show.
Yes. It has been a
All right.
life goal of mine to be more eccentric every year of my life. So next year, even more eccentric than now.
I love it. I love it. We just had an event last night, and there was it was honoring the North Fork Breast Health Coalition, which was the photo I took for the magazine, and they were all there. And there's this one woman who I remembered from the photo shoot. Her name's Connie. She's probably 70 or 80 years old, and she is a firecracker. She is just full of this amazing energy. Life is just, she's too old to take it seriously. You know what I mean? She's just like found that perfect way to navigate and just be, and I love that. It's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, it's great to see you. I know tonight's going to be interesting. When I heard you were going to be my guest, we spoke. I said, what are we going to talk about? We've talked about lots of things. And you said you wanted to talk about ancestral healing.
Mhm.
And that kind of hit me because I feel like I have my own experiences with it. Not, I don't want to say not as deep, because on my retreat, we did some exercises too that were really, really great to be a part of. And I think it affects everybody, right? Whether the trauma is like bad and big or just like minor, you know what I mean? I think it really has an effect on everyone, as far as like that weight that you carry from generation to generation. And now, as we learn to release that weight and how that affects the generation. So tell me, in your words, what is ancestral healing, and how did that become a part of your life and your practice and passion?
Thank you for asking great questions, Michael. So, in my words, ancestral healing is based on the principle or the idea that emotions, thoughts, even physical ailments can be things that have been passed down through your DNA and through energetics, and also through a certain form of programming, I guess you could say. If your mother suffered from severe depression and there was kind of that feeling in the house all the time, you might not be able to put your finger on it, but there was kind of this ambient feeling all the time. You don't know what life would be like without that frequency in it. So
Mm,
you end up recreating it because it's the norm for you. So that's kind of like a programmed thing. But usually it's like grandmother was depressed, and then mother became depressed, and then child becomes depressed.
mm,
And other things like anger. How did our ancestors deal with their anger? Did they repress it? This
mhm,
will cause physical side effects and physical ailments that you could say are like, the idea that certain illnesses are hereditary.
mhm,
And that's not, it's actually more energetic
mhm,
and
mhm,
emotional than it is physical.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
so when we do ancestral healing, we're honoring all those who came before us, their gifts, their talents, their wisdoms, the things that they learned, because we don't just inherit the trauma, we inherit the gifts and the talents as well.
mhm, mhm.
If you have a parent who's like a really talented musician, chances are you're going to be doing something with music or have a great love for music, right? So it's not
Right.
just the traumas. And so when we go in to do ancestral healing, we honor the gifts and the skills that have been passed down. And we also release emotional trauma from our physical body, emotional body, mental body, and spiritual body
Mhm,
through us, because we're at this really unique point of being the living ones, right? There's
mhm,
so many ancestors that came before us and they're now disembodied. And you're at this really unique point where you're the embodied one. So
mhm,
you have the capacity to clear things for the entire ancestral line. And oftentimes, with help from the ancestors, they'll direct you into what's needing to be corrected or healed.
mhm.
So that's a little bit of. ancestral healing? Do you got any questions based on that?
No, I love that, and it's interesting too, because when I was watching the exercises and kind of introduced to this idea, what also was brought up was not only, I think a lot of times people think about like family things, right? Family issues like depression and abuse and things like that that might be carried on, but if you think about just human survival, right,
Mhm.
and the things that happened over the ages, plagues and oh my god, what's it called, conquest, the crusades, like wars and things like that that generations experienced. I mean, those are traumas too that are not necessarily individual to a family, right? Those are like
Mhm.
almost like, whole ages of people, whole groups of people, and that's part of this too, I think. So it's really interesting, and I again, watching the exercises about just kind of like you said, respecting and acknowledging the different things, the gifts and the hardships, that may have manifested in separate ways, and then kind of almost physically saying, here, this is yours and this is yours, dividing it up and kind of finding the right place for it, uh,
Mhm.
I guess, through acknowledging it, right, through acknowledging it with love and respect.
Mhm.
Would
I
you
want to
say?
speak to what you were saying because it's true. There's generational markers. So the side effects after the Holocaust, what that did for like us even today, that has lasting impacts. I'm not sure we'll ever see the end of the impact of that specific generational trauma.
Wow.
As well as with the Great Depression.
Hmm.
It's interesting to see how the generation after the ones who experienced the Great Depression firsthand, their relationship with food and
Hmm.
the spike in the habit of hoarding in the generation
Mm.
after the Great Depression.
Interesting.
And so these things there, it's like it's responding to a stimuli that maybe you didn't even yourself experience, but it's in your DNA now,
Hmm.
that fear response. There's also a really interesting study where they during the Holocaust, there was many places in Eastern Europe where they were cut off from food supplies and they were even torching their food supplies. So these people went through extreme famine,
Wow.
and the generation after the ones who experienced the extreme famine, the women who were either pregnant during that time or gave birth in the few years after this extreme famine,
Mhm.
the rate of diabetes and obesity is like 92%
Wow.
because the marker was there that we don't have enough food. And so the body and the mind and the emotions were saying, eat when you can and eat as fast as you can and eat as much as you can, but
Right.
they were no longer in scarcity. They had
Right.
food supply just coming in, but their blood and their DNA was saying eat, 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 eat.
Right.
So and
Wow.
that's like an entire, it's not just a family, right? That's an
Right.
entire town.
Yeah. Yeah. That's totally interesting, and again, you can see it, right? There's
Mhm.
actual evidence of how this happens. Now, I mean, I'm imagining that when it comes to healing and kind of the things that we're about in this community, helping each other and stuff, it kind of, you get down to the fine tuning of more familial issues, things that like are
Mhm.
like you're saying, the grandmother gets depressed and the mother gets depressed and things like that, and then like I was mentioning, even like physical abuse and alcoholism and things like that, get passed on generation to generation. um I know for me, it wasn't as severe, I guess. There's no, again, we've had this conversation about polarity, right? So every time I
Yeah.
say something like is higher or lower, I'm like, yeah, there is no real higher or lower, right? So, but for me, I had I was very fortunate. I had a very loving family. My family was full of
Mhm.
love. I didn't experience a lot of traumas that I see other families experiencing, like, people going to jail and people getting involved in like heavy drug addiction and things like that. I mean, there was stuff in my family, but it was very loving. I always felt loved. I never felt a lack of that. Um, but I kind of felt like a little bit of a black sheep in my family. So in other
Mhm.
words, I wasn't super close with my dad, right? It wasn't like, oh, my dad never hugged me or anything like that. There was love there, but we were very different. You know what I mean? He was a asset based blender. He was in banking, and I was just totally against the whole financial system.
Mhm.
So we were just very different. And after he passed, well, actually, when he passed, I was very fortunate to be there, with him, and you know, I felt like there was a lot of healing up to that. He had been diagnosed with cancer and had been treated and then passed very quickly. But in caring for him, the weeks up until he passed, I felt like there was a lot of healing that happened between, like, we just didn't know that we loved each other, and in
Mhm.
spending that time together, it was very obvious. There's love. It doesn't matter
Mm.
how different we are, right? But then years later, you know, uh, I was feeling similar thoughts about that, right? Like, okay, we were different, but we loved each other, and I kind of felt this acceptance for who he was, and how he treated me, which again wasn't like abusive or anything like that, but just like we were different, and maybe he couldn't see eye to eye with me. And I just kind of forgave myself in that moment and forgave him. But I felt it. I was like, holy crap. I just I felt the hug, or whatever it was
Mhm.
from my dad, to acknowledge that healing ripple was sent back. And that's
And
I
something
told.
shifts in the internal matrix, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. Something shifted, or else I wouldn't have. I would have been like, okay, fine. I forgave him, and I'm cool with me. But it was like, it wasn't just me that was cool,
Mhm.
right? It was like, oh, the universe all of a sudden was cool. There
He
was
gave you a wink. He
a
was like,
little
"Thanks
more
for that."
balance. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So
Mhm.
I'm imagining you wanted to have this conversation because you've been doing a lot of work with this, and I want to hear all
Yeah.
about it. Tell me what you've been doing. Tell me. I even heard you might have some exercise or something for us to do tonight.
I've got so many cool things with this kind of work. So,
Awesome.
one of the reasons that I wanted to do this tonight is because we're coming into what is said to be an auspicious time where the veil between the realms is the most thin this
Mhm,
week and into the first week of November. That's
mhm,
why All Saints Day is this time of year, All Hallows Eve, like these different markers that indicate that we're going into a time where our ancestors are very close and the veil is very thin.
mhm,
So, this is a prime time to be doing ancestral healing because we can sense the presence of our loved ones in a much stronger way
mhm,
during this time of year.
mhm.
Hello.
Hello.
Um, so, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it forward. And you're also correct. I've been doing a lot more ancestral healing work. For whatever reason, it's been feeling really strong in me to bring that forward.
Mhm,
As you were saying earlier, a lot of the issues that we're working through in our lifetime are almost compounded through generational lines.
mhm,
And that which isn't resolved in the lifetime of a grandparent or an aunt or a great grandparent or even great 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 grandparent, it just keeps coming down the line.
mhm,
And you mentioned being the black sheep earlier. Something that's fascinating is usually the black sheep character in the family is doing the most chain breaking of
mhm.
ancestral trauma
Interesting.
because they are not agreeing to the status quo
Mhm.
under which the family's
Sure.
been
Yeah,
operating by for so many generations.
that
So
makes
they're
sense.
actively breaking it. But as they do, it can actually scare the still existing family members because they couldn't break it for themselves. And for them, that whatever is going on is normal. And
Mhm,
when you were referring to sometimes abuse is passed down through family lines, abuse can become so normal that people don't even think that they can break it or entertain the idea. And
mhm.
then you get one that comes along and starts setting boundaries and saying no and saying, sorry, we don't do that here. And the family is like, I'm sorry, what? we've always done that. It's normal, but it's not normal.
Right.
Well, it might be normal, but it's not healthy. So we're going to put a stop to that here.
Right, right. That I was going to say, like, I think when it becomes kind of normal, you don't even realize that your own behavior is abuse to someone else,
Mhm.
right? Because you're kind of you've learned those behaviors, and that's what feels normal to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel normal, then that's a good thing, I think.
Yes. Yes. If it
Yeah,
doesn't, if that feels so strange to you, congratulations on your childhood.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to share a couple of stories that I find to be really interesting. When I was studying ancestral healing, we did some case studies. And one of the case studies we did was this family where for 3 generations in a row, the grandfather passed away in a car accident in in a specific intersection when he was 40.
Wow,
His son died in the same intersection when he was 40. And then the grandson died in the same intersection when he was 40.
that's really nuts.
There was something so dramatically unresolved that literally, like the Matrix, kept repeating this trauma. And so then when the fourth one came along, he went and started studying ancestral healing to figure out what was going on there and what kind of trauma was stuck. And he lived past 40.
Wow, and what did he figure out? I feel like I feel like this is what is it, Final Destination, right? I feel like that's pretty nuts. Tell me the story. It's
And
fascinating. So
even the same intersection, which I think is wild. So what he ended up
really wild.
discovering was that there was like a sense of abandonment and failure. And in each of those lives, the grandfather, the great grandfather, the father, and then his father, um, there was like a a loss of the will to live in each of them.
Mm,
And so this young man that ended up doing the healing had to confront his own will to live and like find it and like bring it forward in
wow.
him. Mhm.
Wow. So did he find that he was kind of he didn't even realize that he was I want to say depressed, but like what would you call the not the will to live, right? Not having the will to
Right.
live would, did he realize that he didn't have the will to live, or like this helped him identify that fact that he
Yeah,
didn't
what
have
he
the
said was that he just kind of had a lackluster toward life. He wasn't really living it, he was just here.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And he could see how that could lead to a desire just to not be here anymore.
Wow.
Like, "I'm good, I'm done."
Right, right, right,
Mhm,
right. At 40 and the same
mhm.
age and the same space, but so I wanna dig deeper, like, was there any more significance to that location and that moment in life? Like,
I wish I knew more of details like that. It was just
right,
this intersection in the town where this family had lived for generations too, which I think
wow.
is interesting. And something I thought too is I'm like, the third time, like maybe just don't drive in that intersection,
Well,
right?
that's what I'm thinking, like, he was like the movie Final Destination, he's like, "Alright, I'm gonna turn 40 tomorrow, I gotta be on the other side of the country, away from that intersection," you know?
Yeah.
But you said he just through his studying of ancestral healing and trauma that he just realized he needed to be more alive and more
Mhm.
appreciative of being alive. So how did
Yeah.
he accomplish that? I guess you don't know all the details,
Well,
but
he did some what we're gonna do today is emotional release. So he did some emotional release and some meditation work, which I'm also gonna share a little bit about how to do that today so that
cool.
anyone who's interested can practice on their own because it's a really it's initiating work with your ancestors can be one of the most transformative points of education, healing, and a sense of belonging.
Wow.
So, throughout time, throughout history, ancestral work was normal, common, and present. And it's in pretty much every spiritual practice or religious practice. So,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
then something has happened in our Western world where we've gotten disconnected from our ancestry. And that's for
mhm,
a number of reasons. I don't even know really where my ancestry is from, right? My grandfather and my father have done a lot of ancestral work, so we can like trace it back now.
mhm,
But
mhm,
my family on my mom's side, they actually came over on the Mayflower. So they were indentured servants that were taken from their home and then brought to the Americas. So that was the initial cutoff or separation from like my heritage.
Wow.
And then they moved from the East Coast to the West Coast over a period of years, further distancing themselves from that original sense of belonging to some kind of heritage.
Hmm.
And for most Americans, you're mutts. We're all mutts, right? Like,
Right,
what are
right.
you, Michael?
I have a lot of European, Belgium, Poland, are my grandfather and my grandmother. Hungary is my other grandfather. So I like to consider myself gypsy. I kind of say
Yeah.
I've got this kind of like gypsy thing. And I see the truth will set you free, which I believe it says it's Jesse. So Jesse Blaze has been doing some great stuff with his podcast. Good to see you out there, Jesse. And
Hi, Jesse.
Michael Christopher is out there, and Kim
And Kim
Princess
Princess is a mutt
is a
too.
mutt too. Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, I think I've always felt that way, right? Just growing up and knowing that people, like, even if you have, like, I had a Jewish mother and a Jewish father, but
Mhm.
totally, I mean, from all different places, you know what I mean? Oh, it's Jesse Howe. It's Jesse Howe. I thought it was Jesse Blaze, but it's Jesse Howe. Good to see you, Jesse. And he's saying congratulations, because I just reached out to Jesse about getting married, and he's so thank you, Jesse, for showing up. I really
Yay.
appreciate Jesse Hal. He sorry to take a tangent, but Jesse is somebody who
Take it
had an
away.
amazing show called The Missing Link, and just it was so inspiring, and this was from years ago, to uh, see the communities that can be built on this platform right here, this kind of environment, you and I talking and people there in the audience and chatting and everything. It's just such an amazing place to form community. And he was a good inspiration. So I'm really happy that he's here. Speaking of which, if you are in the chat room, type in #live, tickle the algorithm for us so that more people will see it in their threads and join the party. And I also want to say hi to Nancy Martala. So
Hi, Nancy.
so I hope I didn't wipe your brain. A lot of times that happens to me. My train of thought is gone. So let's get
That's
back
a
to it.
talent that I feel strong in. I bookmarked us. Don't worry.
Awesome. Thank you folks out there for tickling the algorithm with us. All right, so let's open up the book again. Where are we at, Suri? Sorry.
All right. So we're talking about ancestral healing and how it's been a prevalent thing for humans as long as humans have been humans.
Mhm.
And as we've been cultivating the Western world and the Western mind, the westernized mind doesn't necessarily practice ancestral rituals or healing as much as other cultures do.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's important for us to bring it back and have a revival, and for each of us to learn how to be able to do it, because it is significantly important. And whether or not you believe in ancestral healing or not, and these practices, it almost doesn't matter, because psychologically, when you're tuning in to the lineage from which you come from, it creates a psychological sense of belonging to something greater than yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when you realize, oh my gosh, I'm just a tiny speck in this big, long chain of experience, and there were many who were before me, and there will be many who come after me, and my life does matter because
Mm.
I'm literally the dream of those who came before me, the
Mhm.
wildest fucking
Mhm.
dream that maybe they could have imagined how cool I would be or what I would be doing in my life. Or maybe it's so wildly abstract, right? And then for
Totally.
those who come after me, my life matters, because the life I live and the choices that I make and the way that I show up on planet Earth will affect every single person who comes to planet Earth after me, whether it be in a small way or a large way.
Yeah.
And especially my ancestors, my future ancestors.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it can bring a sense of morality. It can bring a sense of belonging. It can bring a sense of peace. It can bring regulation to your life, even to be connected to the lineage from which you
Yeah,
come from.
yeah, absolutely. I can totally see
Mhm.
that. I see Arnie's out there too. What's up, Arnie? Yeah, I can totally see that, and I think, I mean, not that this is necessarily, and maybe it is. You're going to tell me. Related. to just the idea of family and community now, I think in the Western civilization in general, I think
Mhm.
even like the basic family unit has kind of dissolved, you know. I mean, I can remember in my lifetime having dinner with my family and actually seeing that kind of start to disappear. Like, not that there aren't families that do it, and God bless those families because they've maintained that closeness, that sense of belonging and love. um but it does seem like, you know, we are that has dissolved, you know, and we're in a
Right.
time where we do need to bring this back. We do need to bring back the sense of belonging, and I think you even make that deeper with the belonging to your own lineage, right, and where you come
Mhm.
from, and all of that. I love it. It's great stuff.
Yeah. It is. It's really great stuff. I also think that this is part of why a lot of people from the westernized world have gone to seek out to study underneath indigenous cultures,
Mm,
because they still are so connected to their lineage is
mhm.
almost, some of them are like unbroken.
Right.
So you can go and sit down with like the Shabibo people, and it's someone your age, but they've been taught by their parents and their grandparents, and their grandparents taught them, and their grandparents taught them. So the
Mhm,
lineage is unbroken, and there's something so powerful about it because the songs that they sing,
mhm.
their families and their tribes have been singing for hundreds of years. So when
Sure.
they start singing a certain song or a certain prayer, it immediately makes them feel connected to all who came before them. And then when they pass these songs down to the ones that are younger than
Mhm,
them, it's creating this continuity,
mhm, mhm.
and it's a magical thing. So I think there's a
Yeah.
hunger to connect.
And there's always, and you know what, as you're talking about it, I'm imagining what you're talking about, and there's always a very celebratory vibe around
Mhm.
that, right? The song is usually done in a celebratory fashion. The songs are usually done that way. Yeah, you know, as you're saying it, I'm thinking of kind of like ancestors, right, and tribes, and videos I've seen of tribal life, and it's always been so endearing to me because it is so community based, and there is such an amazing sense of connection, and I would almost even venture to say more what the heck's the word? I'm always talking about it. Oh my goodness.
You'll
These
find
words
it.
they run out of my head. When you're responsible for something, a more I keep thinking of accommodations and it's not that word. Accountability. There it is.
Ah,
Um, yeah, like, you know, like it seems like there's a lot of accountability in that kind of a lifestyle, right?
mhm.
Because you're living as a community and everybody kind of does their part and contributes, you know. um and Jesse says, I love the community we've built. There's an amazing community of people, you know, having conversations, really looking at themselves in the mirror, taking accountability for what they're doing, you know, and what we're talking about here. But again, you know, I'm relating it to, you know, seeing videos of these tribes and being like, wow, I almost feel like I wish we could go back to those times, you know what I mean? Living on
Yeah.
the land and just, like, singing around the campfire, you know? Amazing.
Yeah, and telling stories and sharing about our histories, and like, who was grandma? What was she like?
Right?
What kind of traits or skills come through her
Mm,
to me?
yeah.
I was recently visiting my family, and I was with my mom and my aunt, and all of a sudden I felt so strongly my grandmother Sawyer. So she was my great grandmother, and I only met her once or twice. I didn't know her very well. But all of a
Your
sudden,
grandmother's name was Sawyer, and is that how you
Betty Sawyer
Oh, Betty
is
Sawyer.
her
Oh,
name.
Grandma
Yeah.
Sawyer, Grandma Sawyer, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Um,
her name
I
was Sawyer?
suddenly could
Sawyer,
hear her laughing. I was with my mom and my aunt, and we were having a really fun time. And all of a sudden, I could hear her laughing. And I almost felt as if she was smiling through my face. She was
mm,
so happy that we were
oh
all
my goodness.
together. And I turned to my mom and my aunt and I said, I feel Grandma Sawyer so strong right now. Like it's like she's in my body visiting just to like come in and say hi.
Uh-huh.
And my mom and my aunt, who was her granddaughter, they were both like, well, you literally slid off her face. Like you look just like her. And when
Wow,
you smile, you have her teeth. You have like you are the
wow.
spitting image of her. And I feel her really strongly. And I didn't know her very well, but I always I heard from my grandfather, her son, and from my aunt that things I say, things I do, the way I move my body, it's uncanny. And
Wow.
so I'm like, that's so cool that
That
I
is
get to
very
kind of
cool.
continue the legacy of her. Um,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Energetically. She's coming through energetically. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'd like to share with you some principles around ancestral healing so anyone who's listening can practice at home if they would like to.
Sure, sure. I want to just acknowledge Kyle saying good evening. It's more like showing love to your bloodline and acknowledgement to why you're here, right? Which
Mhm.
is true. And Jesse's talking about the community. The next step is getting land where we're going to live together and help each other. A dream. Jesse, keep me on the list. I'm definitely there. Awesome. So okay, go ahead. So sorry, I like to acknowledge the audience. They're here, they're
It's
spending their
perfect.
energy. Yeah.
You keep doing that. I'm going to keep bookmarking it.
So great.
So, one of the first things when you start doing ancestral work, it's actually really important to set boundaries. So,
Okay.
once you start to open the door and say, "I'm listening," the ancestors have probably been waiting for a really long time for someone in the bloodline to wake up and start to change and
Wow.
work with the DNA and send healing backward and forward. So if you start engaging with them and you don't set proper boundaries, they'll start bombarding you with the things that they want to bring through,
Mhm, mhm,
especially if you're more energetically sensitive. So if you have tendencies toward being a psychic or being a medium, and you start to open up the doors for your ancestors, it can get really wild.
hmm, okay.
So when I started working with the ancestors, I was like, okay, every Tuesday from 10 to noon, I'm going to set aside this time as if I have an appointment with you guys. And
Mm,
during that period of time, everyone is welcome. Let's talk. Let's figure out
wow.
what we need to work on. Let's figure out what emotions are the most important for shifting. Let's figure out what health stuff has been going on that we can actually end in this generation. So I set up a time for it. And I also set up the time they would come on really strongly when I was going to sleep and in my dreams. And at a certain acute point, I had to tell them to stop and only visit me on that Tuesday when I was setting aside time.
Wow.
But if I ever missed my appointment, they would be there like knocking on the door.
Wow.
And they would, hey, like you
Wow.
promised. Hmm.
Boundaries work, I guess, you said we had office hours. Here I am.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's important that you set up boundaries so that you're not constantly inundated with information from the ancestral
Yeah.
lines.
I
Mhm,
think that's just good, important advice with any energetic work, right? Is just to kind
mhm.
of know that when you're doing energetic work, to be ready for what you're asking for. You know what I mean? Like, just it's good
Yeah.
to do a little research about boundaries in general. I felt like that was a good bookmark too. So yeah, there you go.
Mhm. Let's see,
Great.
most in my line refused to carry the obligation until now, and what time we are living in. I agree, Kyle, I agree with you. It's my observation that a few generations prior to us, they were in such states of survival and lacked an awareness or the tools or the capacity to actually do the inner work that we have access to be able to do now.
Mhm.
And so I feel like this generation that we're in, it's gotten really compounded because there were several generations where no one was doing the work. And we fell into some pretty deep ignorance around how
Mhm.
to heal our minds, how to release emotions, how to let go of emotions. And so I know for myself, and I'm sure for you, Michael, too, that there's been like a buildup of content that
Mhm.
now when we're working on it, it's like, okay, this one's for the whole team.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And I think it's great, and I mean that's a whole other conversation, really. I think what you're talking
Mhm.
about, because, like you said, I think survival was a more important thing that people were focusing on, and now we're living in an age where technology we've got it pretty dang easy, You know what I
Right.
mean? And so now we have the time to do these things. So and that's, again, that's a whole other conversation. There's the good things about that and the bad things about
Mhm.
that, where we're at. But this is great, and I just want to acknowledge Angelo, who is talking specifically about his ancestry. I'm Puerto Rican with Taino indigenous roots. Tainos do ancestor worship, working with the dead, and it's
Mm.
called Espiritismo or Mesa Blanca.
Angelo, I'd love to talk to you about that. That sounds incredible.
Yes, yes, and Kyle, I've been blessed to be the shaman of my Mohawk. Source blessings to you all. Received. Thank you.
Kyle, I would also like to talk to you about that.
There you
Reach out.
go.
You
You
can
got
find
you
me
got
at
two new
Woman Heal Live.
conversations to have. That's amazing.
Yeah,
See?
yeah,
Connections. I love it.
yeah. So, one of the things I like to employ when I'm doing ancestral work for my own self is so here is a practice for you guys if you want to try it. So, I imagine that I'm standing behind my parents and I can see their backs, I can see their shoulders. And then I look through my parents and then I see my grandparents just in front of them.
Hmm.
And so now there's four. And then I look beyond them and then their parents are there. And it starts the more you look out into the ancestral field, it spiders out into all these people.
Mhm, mhm,
And as you look out over the ancestral landscape, everyone's mind presents different imagery for the ancestral field, but that's essentially how you enter the ancestral field. For
mhm,
me, it looks like blue electrical currents, almost like a nervous system.
mm,
So it has the main thing, but then it
mhm,
spiders out and it has all these like roots, like root hairs and all these different things spidering out.
branches. Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it's like this electric blue, and there are these lines that connect everyone. And as I look out over the ancestral field, one of the things that I'm looking for is where in the ancestral field it's become darkened and the electrical circuit isn't running properly in a certain area. It's
Wow.
not that different from how our nervous system, when we get traumatized or stressed, like the nerve tips curl in and they
Mhm,
stop conducting the same amount of electricity that we need for optimal health. It's the same thing in the ancestral line. It's a living
wow.
nervous system. So at some points in the ancestral field, you'll see where it's kind of darkened and the electricity is not conducting itself in a healthy way.
Right. Wow.
And when you find the spots, you just start pouring so much love into it and gratitude. One of my favorite practices is the Oponopono prayer, just singing
Mm,
into the ancestral
love
line,
that.
"I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Please
I
forgive
love
me.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I love you."
Yeah.
But
Oh my
then
goodness.
not just saying it,
Mhm,
but
mhm, mhm.
letting them say it back to you.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. Wow. That, you know what, I've heard a lot of different things about Oponopono, and it's definitely, I've experienced it emotionally, you know what I mean? And I've experienced, and that's joyous and uh, uh, just emotionally. I don't even want to say it's sad. Um
Mhm.
because of that polarity discussion that we had, right? I mean, it's the same thing. But it is so powerful, and I've seen it used in a lot of different practices, in breathwork practices. I've seen it used. It's just a lot. It's just a great way to release. Kim says, "I love the hopo po." No, it's so I can't say it when I have to read it, but I can say it when I don't have to read it. It's so emotional. Yeah, it really is.
Mhm.
And amazing too, because I feel like that's one of the great examples of frequency, right? Because it's
Mhm.
it's it's a song, it's a frequency, and yes, there are words, I think, that bring up linguistic concepts, but I think it's just amplified by the frequency of the song, or something. There's something
Mhm.
really powerful about it. Okay, so this is part of the work that we're doing, and the
Mhm.
visual that you just gave me, that's something that you get into a meditative state and you see that visually.
Mhm.
And then so how do you identify what that, like, you could see where in the lines, but can you identify what specifically that kind of trauma is? How does that happen?
Yeah. So when I'm tuning into a pocket of density in the ancestral field, it's almost as if you can read it. So as you gaze upon it, as you bring your awareness there, as you bring your capacity of observation to it, it speaks to you, not
Mm.
literally, but it feels like you're picking up information on it.
Right, right.
A few times in the field, what I found was that the dark spots were literally places where family members were cut off from the system,
Hmm, hmm.
maybe because of behavior, or they literally had to leave the area where their family was, but it's almost like a forgotten person
Hmm.
that wants to come, like that wants to belong and wants to
Right.
be back and remembered in some
Wow.
form. And other times it's because that part experienced some kind of incredible trauma that darkened that whole spot, and it's as if it like killed off a body part of the ancestral body.
Mm.
And so
Interesting.
it almost needs like resurrection.
Hmm, hmm. That's
I
really. I can't wait to find out how
Yeah.
how to administer the healing to it. That's amazing. I'm just as you're speaking, just so you know, I'm almost
Mhm.
visualizing like a gangrenous toe or foot. You know what I mean? Like a part of your body that's just died, right? And is no
Yeah,
longer functional. Yeah,
it's very much like that. That's a good analogy.
yeah.
So one of the practices when you're standing looking out over the ancestral field, you can pour love into the field. That's one way to change it and to breathe life into it. Your conscious awareness and desire to connect is often enough
Hmm,
to get it to shift.
hmm, hmm.
Another one is the Ho'oponopono prayer, like I said, to sing this, "Hey guys, I forgive you, I love you, I'm sorry." And then "I forgive you, I'm sorry, I love you," back from the ancestral field,
Hmm,
because sometimes certain ancestors actually need the opportunity to apologize or be
hmm,
forgiven
hmm,
so that
hmm.
they can light up again in the ancestral body field.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorites is I call out across the ancestral field and I ask for my most well ancestors to like rise up above the rest so that I can identify them.
Mm.
And then I ask permission to connect across the field. So I imagine myself reaching out my hand to an ancestor who's in the past, who was in great wellness in their life
Mhm,
and
mhm.
or in their death, and
Right.
I reach out their hand, they reach out mine, and the connection starts to just blast this wisdom through the entire field. That's
Wow.
been one of the most powerful shifts I've ever felt, was reaching out across the field for a well ancestor and exchanging information, light, and love
Wow.
from the past to me.
Wow, that's really cool. Like I can imagine that. And I've never heard anything like that. That's really cool. And I like that it's there's a very energetic kind of philosophy behind it, right? You're just
Mhm.
you're amplifying that wellness part of the energy, or that you know the light. You're bringing more
Mhm.
light. You're amplifying the light to the dark. Wow, that's great. And Kim is saying, "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Hey, Kim,
We love
I'm
you."
sorry. Please forgive me. Thank
Yeah,
you. And I love you.
nice. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. All of you. All of you. Wow. Oh, so powerful. Such good stuff tonight. I'm loving it. All right. So keep us going through the process. And I mean, you told us a bunch of your kind of favorite exercises. Do you
Mhm.
have any great stories of ceremonies, or taking somebody through these processes and then seeing instant results, or having them come back later with like crazy stories about how they connected with a relative they haven't heard from in a long time or something?
I have so many. I've been doing
Okay.
this work for a really long time. One of my favorites, this is a personal story of mine. I In my early 20s, I kept getting UTIs, just chronic UTIs, and I was like, there's something more to this, and I need to discover what it is. So I did an emotional release for myself, and when I did the emotional release, all of the emotions that I was releasing were ancestral from both my mother's line and my father's line.
Wow.
And the UTI, the chronic UTIs started after I got married. So I entered the contract of marriage and then I started getting chronically sick. And
Hmm.
when I did the emotional release, almost everything was coming up as feeling trapped, feeling victimized, feeling like property, like just this really deep feeling of what it meant to be a wife was like
Wow.
encoded in my DNA from my grandmothers and their mothers and their mothers entering these contracts of marriage and feeling like property and being abused physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually
Wow.
by partners.
Mm.
So even though that wasn't my experience, my body was built to freak the fuck out and assume that I no longer have ownership of my body. I can't, and it was in my reproductive organs too. Like, I don't own this part of me anymore. It belongs to him,
Wow.
was what was in my cells. So I spent a week honoring my ancestors and grieving the pain of the loss of their sovereignty
Mm.
because of the way the world was when they
Mhm.
were
Mhm.
at that time, and
Right.
for many
Right.
generations actually.
Sure.
And so I did this, and then I've not had a UTI since.
That's
Like,
amazing.
it just done.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, you know what? I'm almost kind of I don't really even want to tiptoe around what you're saying, right? Because I feel like, we have for a very, very long time lived in a patriarchal society, right? And that's
Mhm.
a lot of that is what you're talking about. Now, there are certainly people who, you know, were lucky enough to not live under those constraints, right? But I think that, like you said earlier, like that was just the norm, right? Like
Mhm.
abuse being the norm, and you don't even know that that's and I think I lived through a time where women's liberation, and I saw women standing up against that idea, right? Of you're supposed to be in the house cooking and everything like that. Now I mean, that's a whole other show, that we could do, because there are certainly, I think, good things, and we were talking about that earlier about family, the family unit, and kind of, I guess roles, right? Traditional roles. Now, that doesn't mean in a traditional role that you're property, right? Or
Mhm.
that you should give up your sovereignty in any way. I think in a proper traditional family and traditional roles, there's mutual respect. It's a team. I know that's
Mhm.
how I run my life and my relationship, right? It's just like this is a team. I mean, certainly I think, there's an aspect of I'm the male and she's the female, but that's residual from society,
Mhm.
and I don't think that plays a huge role in our relationship. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's more of the human connection and the respect, and like we're on this planet together, to work as a unit, you know what I mean? And that's even besides the marital unit, the community unit, right? To work with the
Mhm.
sacred spiral network and all the people that we love to work with and do things for and help. I mean, and I guess that's really the healer's kind of lifestyle, right? Is like we're all
Mhm.
in this together, right? Just living with the philosophy of we're all in this together. So how can I help? Showing up to a barbecue, not like, all right, I'm hungry, what are you going to feed me? But like, hey, how can I help? Let's all celebrate this feast together, kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely, and work together and create together. And that's like the key to abundance, honestly. When you're generous and I'm generous, we just doubled our resources,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
It sounds simple to you and me, but I guess the world is still catching up, and I think they are.
We are. I think we're tired of the old status quo for sure. For sure.
Definitely. Definitely. I didn't
Um,
Go ahead. I
yes.
didn't realize it was getting late. I didn't know if
Yeah,
you wanted to do like an exercise of meditation or something. Like, I would
that's
love to.
what's next. So, if for those that are here and anyone who listens after, I'm going to do an emotional release. And this is the same practice that I did when I was working with my UTIs and finding the ancestral trauma that was in my body. And this is also something that I do in my sessions when we are targeting ancestral wounding or traumas. So I have an emotion list in front of me. It's the Byron Katie emotion list. I like this one because it's one of the most full and comprehensive. And I'm going to be muscle testing using my pendulum. And the question that I'm asking, I'm basing it on the collective. So, based on our human collective consciousness, what emotions are most ripe for us to release on behalf of us and our ancestors as a global collective body?
Mhm.
So, Here, I'll do this so you guys can see. Oh, there's my microphone. Maybe I'll hold it up here. All right. So I am Suri and only Suri. I have permission to muscle test on behalf of the collective consciousness. I have permission to muscle test trapped emotions on behalf of ourselves and our collective ancestry. Today, there are 3 or more emotions that we can clear. Today, there are 4 emotions. Okay, so we're going to get 3 emotions. Michael, will you write them down for us as I get them?
Sure.
Okay, so emotion number 1 is on page 1, is on the left side of the page, is in column 1, is in column 2, is in column 3, is currently on the screen, is between my fingers, is between my fingers. It is the emotion misgiving.
Misgiving. Okay.
Emotion number 2 is on page 1, is on the left side of the page, is in column 1, is in column 2, is currently on the screen, is in row 1, is between my fingers, is between my fingers, is 1, is 2, is 3, resistant.
Resistant.
Mm-hmm. And then emotion number 3 is on page 1, is on the left side of the page, is in family 1, is in family 2, is in column 1, is currently on the screen, is currently on the screen, is 1, 2, 3, lousy. Oh, that's a really sad emotion. I feel
Lousy.
lousy.
Wow.
I know we only have 4 minutes, and I want to do the
No,
actual.
take as long as you want with this. Let's get through this. This is amazing. I love this. I'm excited.
Do you mind dropping those in the chat for me, the private chat, so I can read them for the clearing?
Yeah.
And then replacement emotions. Let's find if there are replacement emotions for this work. There are replacement emotions for these trapped emotions. Yes. There are 2 or more. There is 1. Okay. Replacement emotion number 1 is on page 2, is on the left side of the page, is in column 1, is in column 2, is in column 3, is currently on the screen, is between my fingers. It's the emotion thankful.
Thankful.
So simple.
My favorite. One of my favorites.
Gratitude is the medicine of life. So I'm going to do a protocol that comes from the emotion code. And so I'm going to be running my hand and a crystal like a magnet over my central meridian. And I'm using my body as the symbolic vessel for the collective. So as I move the magnet and the crystal over my central meridian, I'm giving myself the opportunity to shift my energetics. And as I do this, I'm going to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So for each emotion, I repeat it 3 times, where I'm asking it to be released from my physical body, my emotional body, my mental body, and my spiritual body, from my DNA and from my ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions.
Wow.
So this is for everyone. If you guys want to get comfortable and just breathe and imagine this just lifting from our collective consciousness, because we can release the concept of misgiving. Misgiving is such an interesting emotion because it means, 1, to give when you don't really want to, which creates resentment. And then also when you have misgivings about something, you don't trust it. And so it's foundationally something that we don't trust. And then resistance, wouldn't it be wonderful to move past that block of resistance to life, to love, to community, to mutual abundance because we're all so generous, to release the sensation of feeling lousy and replace it all with the sensation of being grateful and feeling thankful. So here we go. On behalf of myself and the collective consciousness, I release the trapped emotion of misgiving from the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, from our DNA and from our ancestral lines, across all timelines and dimensions, and so it is. On behalf of myself and the collective, the human shared collective, I release the trapped emotion of misgiving from my physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, from our DNA and from our ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of misgiving from my physical body, emotional body, mental body, spiritual body, from the cellular DNA and throughout the ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of resistant from the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, from the cellular DNA and from our ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions, and so it is. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of resistant from the physical plane, the emotional plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane, from our cellular DNA and from the ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions, and so it is. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of resistant from the physical plane, the emotional plane, the mental plane, the spiritual plane, from the cellular DNA and from the ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of lousy from the physical plane, the emotional plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane, from the cellular DNA and from our ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions, and so it is. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of lousy from the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body, from the cellular DNA and from our ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions, and so it is. On behalf of myself and the collective, I release the trapped emotion of lousy from the physical plane, the emotional plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane, from the cellular DNA and from the ancestral lines across all timelines and dimensions, and so it is. We ask that these emotions be replaced with the sensation and frequency of thankful. We ask that these emotions be replaced with the sensation and frequency of thankful. We ask that these emotions be replaced with the feeling and frequency of thankful. And so it is. All right.
Wow.
We successfully cleared trapped emotion number 1. We successfully cleared trapped emotion number 2. We successfully cleared trapped emotion number 3. We did it.
Amazing. And I have to say, personally, I just experienced when you got to resistant, I feel like that was a personal one for me, right? And in my own kind of metaphysical journey, kind of trying to discover some gifts, I feel like that's the thing that I'm told most often, like intuitively, my guides, whatever. I feel like the biggest message I always get is let go, right? Which is resistance. And when you said it, I felt something kind of in my body happen, something. And then when you brought in the thankful, immediately, like when you're meditating and they're like, okay, release your shoulders, and you kind of you let your shoulders go, and you feel it, like you didn't say let your shoulders go, but you said bring in the thankful, and immediately my shoulders just kind of relaxed. So I know you were successful. I know you were, very much so. Wow, beautiful energy, awesome, amazing. And Nina Rose says thank you. And let it all go, I shed tears. Really, I think for me, Kim, for me, the language of the universe is feeling. And whenever I'm connected or closest to the universe or a source or my highest self, that's what happens. I get an emotional response and I start to kind of release. And it doesn't feel sad. It feels like joy. It's very interesting. When people are crying but they're laughing because they're feeling so joyous. That's the feeling that I get. Wow, amazing, Suri. Thank you so much for sharing that exercise with us and that wisdom. I hope people receive that. I know I did. Sorry, I have to switch places back with you. But that was amazing. Really, really, really great. And I'm glad that was what you wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah, thanks for entertaining me. What a good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Thanks for holding space, Michael Zinn.
Yes. Anytime. You're always welcome here. And I'm sure we have plenty, like I know I said it probably 3 or 4 times, like that's a whole other show, like another
Yeah.
discussion. So we definitely have lots to discuss. Kim, thank you a million times over for being here. And such a wonderful mirror. That's what I'm loving lately, is that idea of reflection in everybody I meet, and in moments, even, and situations, like just feeling like, wow, this whole thing is a reflection of itself. Beautiful.
Yeah. Fractals upon fractals, right?
Beautiful stuff. Yeah, beautiful
Yeah.
stuff. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me tonight, and always. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, same.
It's
And from all of my ancestors and me to you and your ancestors, a call.
what is that? I haven't heard that one.
A call. It's a
Oh,
Sanskrit word that means infinite and eternal. And it's often sung when somebody passes away, you sing it for days.
wow. I love
But
it.
it's also something that you can sit and chant and sing. And it's said to be a word or a frequency that can cut through any like dimensional time and space. So no matter where an ancestor or loved one is on their journey of life, death, reincarnation, whatever it is that you perceive, wherever they are, your
It will reach
frequency
them.
reaches them and
I
says,
love it.
hey, remember you're infinite and eternal.
Love it. Oh my God, sir, you're the best. So much great stuff to talk about. I love it. All right. Well, then, I guess until next time, everybody out there, thank you guys again, as always, for being here intentionally, sticking with us the whole time, interacting with us, opening your souls, and giving and receiving all of that stuff. I will see you guys on Thursday on the live stream of consciousness. I have actually a wonderful woman I worked with last week. I recorded her. She started doing light language. It started coming through, and she sings. And talk about emotional. We'll be just having a conversation, and suddenly the light language will start, and immediately, like, very emotional. She gets very emotional sometimes, and sometimes it's very happy. Sometimes it's feels like very sad and heavy, but amazing woman, Linda Toma. So join me, Suri. Come watch the live stream on Thursday.
I'll be there.
It's going to be a good episode. And all you folks, again, sending love. Ba boom. I think this will do a heart. Will this do a heart on my screen? There it is. Woohoo! Yay!
That
Nice.
is so exciting.
I love that. Oh, let's do some fireworks, right? Or something like. There you go. I love
Oh,
it. Cool, right? All right, folks. Have a great night. Peace, Suri. We'll talk to you later.
ciao.